Well, welcome to this edition of the Black Madonna Speaks on the Heart of the Black Madonna channel with me, your host, Stephanie Georgiev. I'm also the author of the Black Madonna Mysterious Soul Companion. Please see the description below this video for ordering information. The book is available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, and print on demand through the Espresso Book Machine. Also, please subscribe to this channel and like me on Twitter and Facebook to get updates on speaking arrangements, tours, and new publications as we're going to start rolling things out this summer. Now, during this segment, I will be discussing a fascinating concept that I have really been exploring throughout all my research that just has such resonance with me. And the topic is called As Above, So Below. Now, we often think of this term in Hermetic philosophy, but there's also connections with most world religions. We even talk about this in the Lord's Prayer in Christianity, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So there's this deep recognition that what happens on earth is happening in tandem in the heavens. So there's this relationship between the two. So this is what I'll be talking about during this segment. I've been posting videos on this channel for about 6 years now, and much has changed in those 6 years. Not only has the world changed, I have changed. But my understanding and research on the Black Madonna has also, what I would call, evolved. Most people find me through my first video, and that's where I get the most comments. As I've said before numerous times, I do not claim to be the be-all, end-all voice or expert on the Black Madonna. I simply wish to share my insights and my research, and I invite everyone to delve into this topic and follow your heart and mind and spirit where they lead you. I view the Black Madonna through the lens of esoteric Christianity as well as anthroposophy, and the Black Madonna has meaning for me through esoteric Christianity. But I recognize people view this beautiful and enigmatic art form through many different lenses. I want to assure you that I truly believe and support that all views are valuable. But my views are actually evolving. As I've been researching on many different topics and for a walk along the Camino de Santiago, I have come across many interesting themes. The Camino is called de Compostela, which means the way of the stars. In some of my original research on the topic, I learned the reason this name was given to the ancient pilgrim route was that the path along the mountains reminded the ancients of the Milky Way, or our star system. I find it interesting that our cluster of stars is called the Milky Way. Why is our system called the Milky Way? Astronomers tell us that the name has been in use since at least the time of the Greeks, and was given because the amount of stars created the look of milk when one looked up to the night sky. Unfortunately, in modern world, with light pollution, we cannot always see the amazing amounts of stars in the heavens. But if you ever can go on a very high mountain peak or in the middle of the desert where there's not a lot of lights, the sight is really quite beautiful to behold. If we consider this interesting fact about the Camino, or way of the stars, as an example of an ancient cosmic context that everything in the heavens is related on the earth, this is quite interesting. In ancient times, it was actually taught that humans were thought to be miniature cosmoses. Something I learned when I was in acupuncture school was that each acupuncture point in the body was related to a star. And obviously, acupuncture is a very ancient theory, paradigm, and medical paradigm. But when we look to ancient sources, both from the Arab world and the European world, we also see that there's this recognition of star and planetary correspondence with the body. Now, when I was in acupuncture school and I realized there was a star that in the heavens that related to every acupuncture point on the body, I just loved that. It was so much more elegant and interesting than saying a point was bladder 12. But the English naming system of the acupuncture points is a result of the communists taking over Taoist philosophy of traditional Chinese medicine. They obviously threw out the cosmic baby with the bathwater in that one. Now, what I've been learning through my research is that there are quite remarkable star correspondences with things on Earth. One of the most interesting I have uncovered is the pattern of churches, the great cathedrals in France, and the Virgo constellation. If we look at the Virgo constellation in the heavens and we place a map of those stars onto France, we find a pattern where the churches that are all dedicated to the Virgin Mary, and we're pretty much all built around the same time, we find a pattern that of correspondence to the stars in the Virgo constellation. The most significant one in my estimation is the connection between Chartres Cathedral and the star Parima in the Virgo constellation. And you can see this on this map here. Parima is the goddess of birth, of head first birth. The ancients had a god for and goddess for every occasion. And apparently there's also a goddess for breech birth. The Cathedral of Notre Dame de Chartres, in that cathedral there are no graves. There are no relics other than the birth shawl of the Virgin. And the entire cathedral is a shrine to Mary, as well as human endeavors, such as vocations and the arts. So much to do in this beautiful cathedral about birth and the head in terms of thinking. Another very interesting correspondence is the great Byzantine cathedral Hagia Sophia in now what is called Istanbul. It was built in the 6th century, and if you go through the royal entrance and you see a big arrow pointing upward on the door of that entrance, and you look out onto what's called the coronation area, and you can see this on the left side of the slide, there's a beautiful marble mosaic, which we know to be a model of the Lyra constellation, or the lyre, the musical instrument that is famed to be invented by Apollo. And the constellation is on the right side of this slide. Now, what's fascinating to me is the coordinates of the earthly location of the Hagia Sophia. If plugged into a map of the stars, there's a correspondence with the coordinates of the Lyra constellation. So we see another very interesting relationship between the earth and the heavens. For those of you who are familiar with ancient Egypt as well as Stonehenge, we know there are correspondences between the constellation of Orion and these monuments. We've noticed, and what I'd like for you to notice is look at the map of Stonehenge on the left, and then these are the great pyramids at Giza, and you can see the star correspondence, and those stars are all in the belt of Orion. There's also another very interesting pattern in churches, particularly in the Middle Ages up through the Renaissance, where they place their windows and altars in locations that during different times of the year, the sun hits certain spots of the church, say on summer solstice and so on. So that we see in times past, there was a lot of attention to relating things on earth with humans and the heavens. So I'm going to now read from one of my very favorite books, and I really recommend for those of you who are interested in what inspires me and where I get some of my information. It's a book called The Paths of the Christian Mysteries, and it's by Virginia Sees and Manfred Brabant. And I'm going to read a short passage on the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. And we can find this on page 88 and 89 of the book. Okay, so we have to take into account that many knowledgeable individuals from esoteric schools traveled the Camino, and they were fully aware that the Camino was filled with the world of elements, and the paths were not accidental. They were ancient star paths and star routes. What we mean by this is the following. Although the earth rotates, every place on earth corresponds to a part of the firmament of fixed stars. It is through the phantom of the physical earth it contains reflection of the starry heavens, so that routes, areas, places correspond to particular places in the heavens. Thus, we can understand that the path to Compostela was a path of ancient star knowledge. That at least 4,000 years before Christ, all interregional cultic centers in the megalithic times were joined in this network of star routes. There are 3 great star routes on the Camino. The first leads through northern Spain, from Cape Finisterre through Compostela. The second runs through Brittany, and the third went through the south of England. The spiritual leaders and wise men of the megalithic peoples of the Middle and Western Europe traveled to these important cultic locations, to the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula, which is now known as the Santiago de Compostela. So we can see from this very interesting passage from this book a very profound instance of as above, so below. And this statement, as above, so below, is an ancient dictum that concisely shows the relationship between the cosmos and the human being and the earth. There is a wonderful exploration of this topic in a book called Astrogeographia. And I want you to know I'm getting no kickbacks here. I'm just suggesting where I've gotten my research, and I want to credit the people that have done that. So this is a wonderful book. It's a little dense, but it's certainly worth reading. And essentially the book outlines the science of correspondences between stars, planets, and earthly locations. I noticed something very interesting in one of the last chapters, looking at the earth and what are considered the earth's chakras. Chakras is a Sanskrit term from Hindu philosophy for energy centers in the body. In Buddhist tradition, these centers are considered lotuses, which vary in the number of petals they are supposed to have at different locations on the body. Of note is that these lotus-petaled energetic flowers on the body correspond with the chakras and are also corresponding with the 7 endocrine glands of the human hormonal system. Carolyn Myss, in her landmark book, Anatomy of the Spirit, has made connections between the 7 Christian sacraments, the Jewish tree of life, and the Hindu chakra system. The number of 7 and cycles of 7 is universal. There are 7 days in the week and 7 classical planets, which includes the sun and the moon. As I said before, the chakras are also associated with both endocrine glands as well as organs. Richard Levitin, in his landmark book, The Imagination of Pentecost, Rudolf Steiner and Contemporary Spirituality, is really a wonderful exploration delving further into this topic. He speaks about the logos, which is the cosmic word that resounds through the universe, and how this interacts with the human. In another video, I spoke about how cosmic energy is breathed into the human through our etheric body, and how we process this cosmic energy and breathe it out as the music of the spheres. In essence, we participate and co-create the cosmos within our body, our etheric body. And this is a way that the universe imprints and acts within us, and we within the cosmos, in a delightful, reciprocal manner. I'm also going to read from this book a short passage, which you can find on page 60. And he's talking about the logos and the etheric body. And Levitin states, the etheric body is the expression of the individualized logos. In other words, the human etheric body, in its generic expression, is the individualization of a complete cosmic activity. The logos speaks to the human in an individual form through the inner word, which comprises the human's essential being. In the etheric body, speech, as it forms for the word or the logos, is turned inward, etherically giving us a resounding, speaking, individualized logos. This incessant activity, which is carried out by the angelic worlds, is a subtle vertebral column in the human set opposite to the physical spine in front of the body. Here, the chakras, or what Steiner prefers to call the lotus flowers, the 7 subtle swirling energy fields related sequentially to the human endocrine glands and ascending states of consciousness, attack to the astral body, which is formed by the 3rd member of the 2nd angelic hierarchy, the dynamis. This living activity of the 2nd hierarchy of angels streams down from the cosmos, is individualized in the human, and exists in our astral body, but shows itself in the etheric body. So that's a rather dense quote, and that's why I'm quoting it rather than trying to explain it. But it's basically talking about how, through the logos, the cosmic word of divinity, there's this incredible relationship, reciprocal relationship between the angelic world and the human being. So getting back to astrographia, something I find rather beautiful is the concept of how the starry world has made an imprint on the earth. I cannot begin to explain the mathematical calculations showing how the locations of the pathways and such. I invite my listeners to read Astrographia, but what I took away from this was the location of the 4th chakra of the earth. The 4th chakra on humans is related to both the heart and the sun. And you can see this on the diagram of the person in the meditation position. And notice the color. It's very interesting. It's green. Now on Earth, as we can see in the other image on this diagram, the 4th chakra is related to Africa. The calculations mix together Jerusalem, the site of the deed of Christ, with the continent of Africa as the heart of the earth. When we superimpose this with the fact that the Black Madonnas come from Africa and the areas surrounding Jerusalem, that many Black Madonnas were discovered in Palestine and Jerusalem by St. Helen of the Cross and brought to the European continent to be distributed from there, that the cosmic monks from North Africa brought Black Madonnas to the European continent starting in the 4th century, and that Christianity flourished and spread widely throughout the African continent in the first 4 to 6 centuries. I find this so very fascinating and meaningful, that the Black Madonnas originate from the heart of the earth, that we can actually see this as a relationship to the sun, which is the center of the universe on earth. The metal related to the sun is gold, and Africa is the continent with the most gold on the planet. The lion is the animal related to the sun, and it is also related to the human heart and to courage. Black is the color of cosmic origins, but also of cosmic will being transformed into human will. The Black Madonnas came en masse to the European continent during the age of the Crusades. Rudolf Steiner tells us the Crusades were a preparation for the age of consciousness soul, which is our current era. It is a difficult era, an exhausting era. We need much courage to endure these times when we are reshaping and reorienting our relationship with the spiritual world. Before this time, we had a more direct but less independent and unconscious relationship with spirit. Now we must use our will to refine our intellect and thinking to be conscious of spirit. The challenges of our era are part of this refinement and education. Isn't it a gracious gesture from the spiritual world to place Black Madonnas from the heart of the world to show us that we must have courage for our times? So many symbols, so many messages. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. Please subscribe to this channel and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to order the book, it's available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Audible, and the Espresso Book Machine. I also ask you to please consider to become a patron. I have special material that is patron only, so you will enjoy that. So you can check out my Patreon page for more information. And finally, blessings to you on your journey.